Introduction. When we observe a plant, then we see that every plant has roots, stem, and leaves. Plants also have flowers and fruits. We have already discussed characteristics, types, modifications and functions of roots, stems, leaf, and inflorescence. Now we will study flowers.
Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to find out characteristics of flower, find out types of flowers, study parts of flowers, identify types of corolla, understand estivation, find out characteristics of androecium, study parts of stamen, find out types of find out cohesion of stamens, study adhesion of stamens, understand attachment of anther to filament, find out characteristics of gynoecium, study parts of gynoecium, find out types of gynoecium, understand placentation. The flower. Flowers are the reproductive structures in angiosperms. A flower is defined as a modified vegetative shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flower consists of a very short axis on which whorls of different parts arises. Usually the flower arises in the axial of a modified leaf called bract. When bracts are present at the base of the pedicel, the flower is said to be bracteate. When the flower consists of a stalk called pedicel, it is described as pedicellate. When the pedicel is absent, the flower is described as types of flower. On the basis of position of thalamus and other parts of flower, the flower is of three types: hypogynous, perigynous, epigynous. Hypogynous. Thalamus is prominent and the gynoecium is situated on the top of the thalamus. Other floral parts, that is calyx, corolla, and androecium, are situated below the gynoecium. Ovary is superior. It is regarded as primitive. Perigynous. The thalamus is flat or cup-shaped. Calyx, corolla, and androecium are attached to the tip of the cup and gynoecium at the center. Ovary is half inferior. It is regarded as intermediate between hypo and epigynous. Epigynous. The thalamus is in the form of a deep cup and the margins of the cup are fused with the wall of the ovary. Calyx, corolla, and androecium are born on the top of the ovary. Ovary is inferior. It is regarded as highly advanced condition. Parts of flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx. The calyx is the outermost whorl of the flower and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like, and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepals united, or polysepalous, sepals free. Corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. It is the second whorl of flower. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may be also free, polypetalous, or united, gamopetalous. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped, or wheel-shaped. Types of corolla. Tubular. Petals form a tube-like structure. Example, compositae. Cruciform. This type of corolla possesses the 4 free-float petals arranged in the form of a cross. Example, crucifery. Papilionaceous. The 5 free petals are arranged as similar to a butterfly. They are arranged in vexillary type of estivation, in which there is a large petal, standard or vexillum, 2 lateral free petals, wings, and 2 inner united and boat-shaped petals, keels. Example, Papilionaceae. Ligulate. The ray florets of composite are arranged in the form of a tongue. Example, sunflower. Estivation. The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral bud with respect to the other members of the same whorl is known as estivation. The main types of estivation are valvate, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. Valvate is when members of calyx or corolla are just in contact with each other but not overlapping. Example, Calotropis, it is said to be valvate. Twisted is when one margin of the member of calyx or corolla is overlapped and the other margin is overlapping the next member. The estivation is called twisted. Example, China rose, lady's finger, and cotton, etc. Imbricate is when both the margins of one member of calyx or corolla are overlapped and both the margins of other member are external and remaining are twisted in nature. Estivation is called imbricate. Example, cassia, gulmohar, etc. It may be of 2 types: ascending imbricate, descending imbricate. Ascending imbricate is when posterior member is internal and overlapped by lateral members, which in their turn are overlapped by anterior members. Example, sisal pinioide. Descending imbricate or vacillary is found in pea and bean flowers. There are 5 petals. The largest, standard, overlaps the 2 lateral petals, wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals, keel. This type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionaceous. Quincuntial is when the margins of 2 members of the calyx or corolla are both external and of the 2 members are internal, and of one member is one margin internal and one margin external, then it is called quincuntial. Example, psidium and punica, etc. Androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive part and constitutes the 3rd whorl in the flower. It is formed of 1 to many stamens. Each stamen consists of a filament and an anther at its tip. Each stamen which consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed, and each lobe has 2 chambers, the pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. A typical stamen has 3 parts: filament, anther, connectives. Each stamen generally has a stalk called filament. There may be a variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. On top of the filament, an anther and pollen sacs called microsporangia. The tissue between the locules and the cells is called the connective. Types of androecium. On the basis of length of the stamens, androecium are of 3 types: didynamous, tetradynamous, heterostemenous. Didynamous is when 2 stamens are long and 2 are short. Tetradynamous is when 4 stamens are long and 2 are short. Heterostamenous is when all the stamens are of different lengths. Cohesion of stamens. Union of a part of stamen or whole stamen is called cohesion of stamens. On the basis of cohesion, the androecium is of following types: adelphous, syngenesis, synandrous. Adelphous is when the filaments of stamens are united and anthers are free of the condition is known as adelphous. It is again of 3 types: monadelphous, didelphous, polyadelphous. Monadelphous is when the filaments of all stamens are united together in one bundle and anthers are free of the condition is known as monadelphous. Example, Hibiscus rosa sinensis. Didelphous is when the filaments of the stamens are united together in 2 bundles and anthers are free. The condition is known as didelphous. Example, Papilianaceae. Polyadelphous is when the filaments of the stamens are fused to form more than 2 bundles. The condition is known as polyadelphous. Example, citrus. Syngenesis or synanthus is when filament of stamens are free and anthers are united. The condition is known as syngenesis or synanthus. Example, Asteraceae. Synandrous is when both filament and anthers of stamens are united to form one bundle. The condition is known as synandrous. Example, Cucurbita. Adhesion of stamens. Fusion of stamens of flower with other floral parts is called adhesion of stamens. On the basis of adhesion, the androecium is of following types: epipetalous, episepalous, epiphyllous, gynandrous. Epipetalous is when the stamens are attached to the petals. Example, Solanum nigrum, brinjal. Episepalous is when the stamens are attached to the sepals. Example, verbena. Epiphyllous or epitepalous is when the stamens are attached to the perianthal lobes, tepals. Example, Asphodedias tenuifolius. Gynandrous is when the stamens are attached to the carpels. Example, Calotropis procera. Attachment of anther to the filament. Basifixed is when the filament is attached to the base of the anther is called basifixed. Example, Brassica campestris. Adnate. When the filament is attached to the 2 anther lobes from base to the apex is called adnate. Example, magnolia. Dorsifixed is when the filament is firmly attached to the back of the anther is called dorsifixed. Example, passiflora. Versatile is when the filament is attached to the back of the anther to a point and the anther can move freely. Then it is called versatile. Example, grass. Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of 1 or more carpels. It is the 4th whorl of the flower. It is situated terminally on the thalamus. Gynoecium or pistils are composed of 1 or more carpels, which is the female reproductive organ of the flower. A carpel is a modified leaf folded on the ventral suturae. Margins are fused together. Midrib portion is known as the dorsal suturae. Ovules are attached on the placenta, which usually developed on the ventral suturae. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. Parts of gynoecium. A carpel consists of 3 parts: stigma, style, ovary. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for pollen grains. It is situated on the top of the ovary. It is a long, slender structure which develops from the upper part of the ovary. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The styles are of 3 types: terminal or apical, lateral, gynobasic. Terminal or apical is condition when the style is usually situated on the top of the ovary and in line of the ovary. Example: Solanum, Hibiscus rosa sinensis. Lateral is condition when in some flowers where ovary bends on one side so that the style appears to be arising from the lateral side. Example: mango. Gynobasic is condition in labiate where the ovary is 4-lobed and the style appears to be arising from the depression between the lobes. Example: Ocimum sanctum. Ovary is the lowermost swollen part of the gynoecium, which contains 1 or more ovules attached to a flattened, cushion-like placenta. Ovary is a modified leaf, may be unilocular, bilocular, or multilocular. Types of gynoecium. Depending on the number of carpels present, gynoecium is of 3 types: monocarpellary, bicarpellary, polycarpellary. When gynoecium has only 1 carpel, then it is called monocarpellary. Example: pea, Leguminosae. When gynoecium has 2 carpels, then it is called bicarpellary. Example: Solanaceae, Cruciferae. When gynoecium has more than 2 carpels, then it is called polycarpellary. Example: Malvaceae. Depending on the state of carpels, gynoecium is of 2 types: apocarpous, cynocarpous. When more than 1 carpel is present, they may be free and are called apocarpous. Example: lotus and rose. When carpels are fused, they are termed cynocarpous. Example: mustard and tomato. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types: marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, free central, superficial. In the marginal placentation, gynoecium is monocarpellary, multicarpellary, and apocarpous. Ovary is unilocular. The ovules are born in 1 or more rows on the placenta situated on the ventral suturae. Example: Leguminosae. In the axial placentation, gynoecium is bicarpellary to multicarpellary and syncarpous. Ovary is multilocular. The margins of the individual carpel project inwards and then fuse together so that the ventral suturaes are placed along the axis. There are usually as many chambers as the carpels. Example: Malvaceae. In the parietal placentation, gynoecium is bicarpellary or tricarpellary and syncarpous. Ovary is unilocular. Sometimes it may be bilocular due to the development of false septum. The placenta is born on the fused margins of the adjacent carpels, thus the ovule are born in the periphery of the ovary. Example: Cruciferae. In the basal placentation, gynoecium is bicarpellary and syncarpous. Ovary is unilocular. The placenta develops at the tip of the thalamus at the base of the ovary. A single ovule is attached at the base of the ovary. Example, tegitis. In the free central placentation, gynoecium is multicarpellary and syncarpous. Ovary is unilocular. The ovules are borne on the axis in the center of the ovary. Example, dianthus. The placentation is axile, but due to breakdown of partition wall, it becomes free central. In the superficial placentation, gynoecium is multicarpellary and syncarpous. Ovary is multilocular. The ovules are borne on the inner surface of the partition septa. Example, nymphae. Did you know, in family Asteraceae, inflorescence is capitulum. Stamens are syngenaceous in composite family. Gynoecium in family Cruciferae is bicarpellary, syncarpous, superior and unilocular, but it becomes bilocular due to false septum called rhepilum. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. A plant having butterfly-shaped flowers with one standard, two wing-like algae and two keel-shaped petals belong to Fabaceae. The example of trimerous, unisexual flower is Coccus nucifera. Didelphous stamens are characteristic of Fabaceae. Tetradynamous condition is found in Brassica campestris. Family Cruciferae has bimerous flowers, 6 stamens, bicarpellary gynoecium. Trimerous flowers, superior ovary and axile placentation are characteristic of Liliaceae. Pentamerous, actinomorphic flowers, bicarpellary ovary with oblique septa are characteristic features of Solanaceae. A flower which can be divided into the halves in only one vertical plane is called zygomorphic. Tetradynamous androecium is found in mustard. Synandrous condition is the fusion of both filaments and anthers. Cyanthium is characterized by single female flower surrounded by many male flowers and have involucres of bracts enclosing all flowers. Monothecous anther is characteristic of Malvaceae. Gynobasic style is characteristic feature of Laminaceae. Bicarpellary syncarpous inferior ovary is found in Cypsela. The order of opening of floral parts from the periphery towards the center is called centripetal. Glooms represent bracts. Smallest flower is Wolfia.